this video we'll make braces for the top and back. Okay, you should have a complete set of templates on the bottom there, and examine the nomenclature. The first is the width, then the height, then the length, the material, and the top there is spruce, and the quantity. That's for one guitar. Let's start with the back braces. These are easiest. So it's 5/16 width, 7/16 height redwood. The thickness of that redwood piece has already been set to 7/16. So the braces are going to come out of the piece of redwood not like that, but like that. So we're going to need to rip strips that correspond to the width. First we set the blade height and just above the redwood. Okay, then we set the rip fence setting. Remember that was 5/16 for this one. I usually go a little more in case it decides to cut more. Sometimes it's finicky. Okay, you want to inspect how the wood fits against the fence. It must not rock, and you want the square edge, the better edge, to go against the fence. Now obtain this push block, which is for narrow ripping. You can see it has a guide that slips over the fence, and make sure it slides smoothly down the fence. Also note that it does have a little bit of ability to rock, so you want to prevent that as you push, which is not difficult. Okay, push your wood so that it's about 1 inch behind the blade. Then press the featherboard gently into place. Hook the push block over the fence and over the end of the wood. And turn on your dust collector. This is for all sawing and especially sanding. Turn on the saw and push through. You're pushing forward, down, and very slightly into the fence, but preventing the block from rocking. We don't want the block to go into the blade, of course. Turn off the blade and let it come to a stop. And you can inspect your quality of the cut. It should be very smooth for this blade. And now you're ready to do it again. So I push the redwood into the blade, back up 1 inch, secure the featherboard, gentle pressure, lock that in place. And now with my left hand, you notice I'm pushing the bottom of that push block so that I ensure it's right on the fence. That way it doesn't run into the blade. Okay, to lay out, take your template and align it with one end of the redwood and trace that end. And then preserve the orientation of each other. And I mark the end of the brace with a very clear line. You'll see why in a bit. And then a taper. Okay, go to the bandsaw. We need to make sure that the blade guard is low to protect your skin from the blade. This does not have any flesh sensing technology like the table saw does. So lower it as far as possible, just above the whatever you're cutting. And that lock knob takes a few turns to both fully lock and unlock. Okay, now we'll cut to length. The simple way to cut across is line it perpendicular to the blade, use your left hand as a pivot point, and then just push with your right. Push, make sure that the guard is low enough your fingers can't get in. You may want to practice how you'll push this through. It's a little bit awkward, so you want to push it through so the line is parallel to the path of the cut, of course. And how close to the line you cut is entirely up to you. The closer you are, the less sanding, but sanding's not difficult. Now we'll go to the belt sander and just sand to the line. Try not to shorten the overall length of the brace. It's fine to go to a feathered end, but try not to shorten it. The redwood is soft enough that you can do 2 of these at once. Just align them together. Use your right hand to hold them together and your left hand to push in the middle of the 2. And an advantage of this method is it only creates one feathered edge, so less deburring. The other brace typically doesn't need this. Now we're ready for the spruce. We're going to start with the upper brace and the neck pocket blocks. So these are 9/16 high braces, and the wood has already been thicknessed to 9/16. So that's how the braces will come out. Raise the blade slightly just above the surface. It's a 1/2 inch wide brace, so we need to set our rip fence to a 1/2. And you rip these as normal as before. Okay, we're describing the lines, layout lines. You can separate these by roughly 1/8 of an inch. Cut those on the bandsaw and sand, and these will sand. You'll notice the spruce takes more effort. These blocks will fuzz a lot because of the end grain sanding, so you'll need to be sure to deburr those. Okay, now we're doing our X brace, 1/4 inch wide, and the fence will stay here for the rest of the cuts. And make sure you use this guided rip block, because we're right next to the blade. As long as you push normally, it'll be fine. And then for the scallop, you have two choices. You can use the belt sander like shown here. You do have to be a little careful because you're sanding with the very left edge of the belt, but you don't want to have the middle of the belt touch or sand off too much of the peak there that's in the middle of the belt. So you can also use this spindle sander. Works best if you work against the direction of the sanding drum, so that's moving the spruce from left to right. You'll see the fuzz will build up and obscure your view, so you want to clear that. This is a little harder to obtain a smooth finish because the radii are so different, but it can be done. You can also finish the line with a sanding block to be smooth. Now we're doing the lower face braces. We've already ripped the sticks, and you can lay these out two to a stick. And if you lay them out like this, you can save yourself a cut. How close you go is entirely up to you. This is on the close side. I've raised the guard, you can see, for camera work, but you should normally have the guard down. Cut off the end. The spruce, the finger braces are in many ways the hardest because they're so small. Have your blade just above remember to lower the blade so it's just above. Back up 1 inch as usual. Set your feather board as usual. And rip just like the others. I cut these to length on the bandsaw, but I don't bother doing that step. 2 reasons. One is they're small, and so your fingers are awfully close to the blade. The second is you're better off just going straight to the sander. There's very little wood there to sand off, and it goes quickly. You can work on the right and left side of the belt, and that keeps one of your hands away from the belt. There, I was showing 2 at once there. For the maple bridge patch, you'll lay this out, and again you can conserve wood a little bit by overlapping like shown. Okay, now we're ready for cross-cutting the neck blocks. So we need to install the cross-cut guide, make sure it's in the slots and it's moving smoothly. Here's the 3/4 inch Baltic birch plywood. We'll set that here and raise the blade just above it. And this scale tells us how long the cut will be. So one of your cuts is going to be 3 3/4 inches as shown there. You turn the blade on and push through, and then turn the blade off. And I actually suggest you do the short blocks first. Those are best that way. You can use this hose that pulls down above the table saw to clean up, and then continue with kerfing your top and back.